A reflection on thought as the root of unhappiness. The primary cause of unhappiness is never the situation but your thoughts about it. We tend to think that life itself is responsible for our suffering. At first glance, this idea can feel dismissive of real pain, loss, or hardship. Yet upon deeper reflection, it reveals a profound truth. While we cannot always control what happens to us, we are deeply responsible for how we interpret, resist, or internalize those experiences. Human beings instinctively link unhappiness to external circumstances. We say we are unhappy because we failed, because someone hurt us, because things did not go as planned. However, two people can experience the same event and respond in entirely different ways. One may feel defeated while the other grows stronger. This difference does not lie in the situation itself, but in the meaning each person assigns to it. Our thoughts act as a lens through which reality is filtered, shaping emotions, reactions, and even identity. Much of our suffering arises from mental narratives and stories we tell ourselves about what should have happened, what something means about us, or what the future must look like now. When reality clashes with expectation, the mind often responds with resistance, judgment, and fear. A setback becomes a personal failure. A delay becomes wasted time. A loss becomes proof that life is unfair. These interpretations, repeated and reinforced, solidify into emotional pain. The situation may be temporary, but the thought prolongs the suffering. This insight does not deny pain, rather it reframes it. Pain is often unavoidable, but suffering is amplified by unconscious thinking. When we observe our thoughts without immediately believing them, we begin to see how much unhappiness is self-generated. The mind has a tendency to replay the past, anticipate worst-case futures, and compare the present moment to imagined alternatives. Rarely does it remain with what is. In doing so, it pulls us away from peace and into a cycle of dissatisfaction. Recognizing thoughts as the root of unhappiness is an invitation to inner responsibility, not self-blame. It empowers rather than weakens. If thoughts create suffering, then awareness can dissolve it. By questioning automatic beliefs, is this thought true? Is it helpful? Is there another way to see this? We loosen their grip. Acceptance replaces resistance. Clarity replaces emotional reactivity. The same situation remains, but its power over our inner state diminishes. Ultimately, this reflection points toward freedom. When we stop demanding that life conform to our expectations and instead examine the thoughts that shape our emotional experience, we reclaim agency over our well-being. Happiness becomes less dependent on external conditions and more rooted in inner understanding. In this way, the quote is not a denial of life's difficulties, but a reminder that peace is not found by controlling circumstances, but by mastering the mind. From a spiritual perspective, the outer world is neutral. Events unfold according to countless forces beyond personal control. Yet the mind immediately labels experiences as good or bad, fair or unfair, success or failure. These labels are not reality. They are interpretations. When the mind clings to these interpretations, it creates a sense of separation from peace, from acceptance, and from the present moment. Unhappiness is born not in the event, but in this inner division. Much of human suffering arises from resistance. The mind resists what has already happened by wishing it were different. It resists the present by comparing it to an imagined future or a remembered past. Spiritually, this resistance is a refusal to surrender to what is. When life does not align with personal expectations, the ego interprets this as a threat and responds with fear, anger, or despair. Yet life itself remains untouched by these reactions. It is the inner commentary that disturbs our peace. Spiritual teachings remind us that we are not our thoughts, We are the awareness in which thoughts arise. When we mistakenly identify with every thought, we experience them as absolute truth. A single thought like I am not enough, this should not have happened, I will never be happy again can shape our emotional reality. When believed, these thoughts contract the heart and cloud perception. When observed with awareness, they lose their authority. Awareness brings space, and in that space, suffering begins to dissolve. This understanding does not encourage emotional suppression or spiritual bypassing. Pain is real, and grief has its own sacred rhythm. However, spirituality teaches that pain becomes suffering when the mind adds meaning rooted in fear and attachment. Loss hurts, but the thought I cannot live without this deepens the wound. Change is uncomfortable, but the belief I need things to stay the same to be okay creates inner turmoil. The spiritual path invites us to meet pain with presence rather than mental struggle. When we turn inward and witness our thoughts with compassion, we begin to see how unhappiness is sustained by unconscious patterns. The mind seeks control, certainty, and validation from the external world. But peace does not come from controlling life, it comes from aligning with it. Surrender in this sense is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is the recognition that inner freedom is found by releasing the need for life to be different. At the deepest level, this quote points to liberation. When thoughts no longer dominate awareness, a deeper stillness emerges, one that is not dependent on circumstances. This stillness is the true source of peace. Situations will continue to change, challenges will arise, and impermanence will remain a constant. Yet when we rest in awareness rather than thought, we discover that happiness is not something life gives or takes away. It is our natural state, obscured only by the mind's interpretations. In recognizing that unhappiness originates in thought rather than circumstance, we awaken to our true power. We reclaim responsibility for our inner world without condemning ourselves for being human. This realization gently shifts us from victimhood to presence, from resistance to acceptance, and from suffering to understanding. Life remains as it is, but we meet it with clarity, humility, and inner peace.